Hey squirrels, welcome back to ADHD. Today we are jumping straight into a topic that is near and dear to my heart, balancing ADHD, motherhood, and running a business. I am qualified to be here because I do all three of those things. I have ADHD, I am a mother, and I run a business. And let me tell you, while it is beautiful and wonderful and challenging, it is also chaotic and messy and challenging. And so let's talk about motherhood and balancing it and how to work smarter, not harder. As we continue in our Smarter, Not Harder series, let's just talk a little bit about the stuff that's actually really hard. Because if we're being really honest with each other, wearing so many hats is a massive challenge. If you are a parent, specifically a mother, and you're trying to keep it all together, this episode is for you. And I'm not going to guarantee you that it's going to solve all your problems, but it's going to be a good start to at least feeling like you're not alone in this struggle. So what is the struggle? When you're talking about motherhood and work in general, balancing that work-life balance, right, that we talk about, and work-life balance specifically with motherhood and entrepreneurship gets bumped up to an even more intense degree. Because as a mother, as a parent, and often mothers feel this more in their households, we have a lot of things that we're in control of. There are a lot of things that we're responsible for, not only for ourselves, for the running of our business, but for our households and the running of our households. There are work deadlines, kids' soccer practice. They have to bring a cake to school. They have homework. There's a bill that needs to be paid. Your roof is leaking. It's just a struggle to stay organized with those business tasks and those personal tasks when they compound and pile up on each other over and over and over again. And then sometimes you wonder, like, how can I be so organized when it comes to my business and I'm a mess when it comes to my kids? Or how come I'm doing so well when it comes to home, but I'm a mess in my business? How come I'm not able to do all of the things that I need to do when I need to do them? And before we get into the solution piece, let's just be with that for a second. With the struggle of being a failure, with the struggle of being pulled in multiple different directions all the time, and different people needing different things all the time from you, a never-ending tug of war, it gets overwhelming. But the part that's most overwhelming is the expectation that we should be able to handle all of it. It shouldn't be more than I'm able to handle. It shouldn't be greater than my capacity. And that should word is popping up again, which is very interesting. It chases us a lot. I should be able to balance everything that I need to do. I should be able to handle all of the tasks that I have on my plate. Well, sometimes you have too many tasks on your plate. I should be able to handle it. It's really not that much. My friend, mother, parent, sister, brother, dog is able to do it without an issue. How come it's so hard for me? And I am not only talking to ADHD moms right now, I'm talking to every single mother who feels like they're being pulled in a bunch of different directions all the time and is not measuring up. You wake up and you hit the ground running. And it's just task. People needing things from you. Things need to get done. Things have deadlines. Everything compounds one into the other. If you're a little late with one thing, then it impacts everything else. I mean, you're just constantly being pulled in a million different directions because a lot of people need you. Let's talk for a really quick second about mental load. Mental load means the work that you do that's invisible and inside your head. The stuff that you have to hold in your hands and in your mind, actively at the forefront of your mind, even if you're not doing anything about it right now. The kids have a doctor's appointment tomorrow, so we need to make sure that in the morning they go to school with their excusal note or their early dismissal note and an extra pair of clothes or an extra snack or whatever. You need to remember that. You're holding it in your mind from last week, the day before, that morning to make sure that it happens. Now, that singular thing on its own, remembering child has doctor's appointment, is not a big deal. But that's one example of a million different tasks that you need to be aware of and be actively juggling in your mind so that they don't get lost at any given time. And that mental load is very extreme. It leads to a lot of discourse in marriages and in relationships where people feel like there's an inequity in the labor. They feel like they're working harder than their partner. It brings a lot of strife. It brings a lot of disagreement to the table between the two of them. Because often we're only looking at the division of labor that we can see. Who did the dishes? Who did the laundry? But who makes sure that there is laundry detergent in the house so that when you need to do the laundry, there's laundry detergent there for the laundry to be able to be done? Who's in charge of going through the clothing and making sure everyone's clothes fit and recycling them out or upcycling them when it's time to go to the next size? Who is making sure that the clothing that you bought your kids is the exact type of clothes that they'll like and that they'll wear and that will suit their style or their taste right now? All of those invisible tasks go into mental load and into a division of labor that you can't see very easily. And it leads to this feeling, or it adds to this feeling of just drowning, this feeling of I'm crying for help and I'm screaming for help. But no one is seeing that I'm screaming out for help because the load of the labor is invisible. So often the request for help is invisible or discounted and disregarded. Juggling and wearing many hats, if we add in the entrepreneurship aspect, now you're responsible for the functioning of an entire business. You're responsible for the entire life cycle of that business every single day. If you wake up and you are not on it and you're not grinding, your business is not on it and is not grinding that day. And if you have employees or people who work for you, then they and their families depend on you, depend on your ability to perform and succeed for their family's livelihood. And that's a tremendous amount of pressure. So then you add in the load, the actual load and the mental load of running and facilitating an entire business. Now you're in an entirely different ballpark of overwhelming. So of course, some things fall between the cracks. And now add on to all of that ADHD, which by definition means that your ability to hold those tasks and that load in your mind is diminished. And then you have a situation where 1,000,000% for sure, you are going to forget things. Things are going to fall between the cracks. You are going to hit periods of overwhelm, especially because something that comes with ADHD is like suddenly realizing that something needs to be done as if time doesn't keep passing. It surprises us every single day. Oh my God, it's summer break again. I never signed my kids up for camp and now they're going to be off of school. And how am I going to take care of them every day? And what am I going to do? And everything kind of sneaks up on you and you feel like you don't have any control over the situation at all. Because ADHD and its time blindness friend is a very, very sneaky sniper. And it will come for you when you are not expecting it and when you are not looking for it. All of those different hats that you have to wear, plus the disadvantages in this situation of ADHD, are truly, truly overwhelming. And what does that overwhelm often leave us with? That overwhelm very often leaves us with tremendous feelings of guilt. Now, let me tell you something about guilt. And I'm glad that I'm talking to y'all today because I had this conversation with my sister yesterday for the 100th time, by the way. And as a side note, if I have any of my fellow squirrels out there who need to learn the same lesson 1,001 times before they actually learn the lesson, I commiserate with you. I'm sorry that you're like that. I'm like that too. And I wish I were different. It would be really nice to learn the lesson the first time and not the 10th, 20th, 50th, or 100th time. But we were talking about guilt and how I was struggling with feelings of guilt, specifically surrounding taking some time off of work and some time away from my kids to celebrate my birthday and have a little bit of peace and quiet for my birthday. And she was saying, like, guilt is a very invalid emotion. And then stopped for a second because that phrase made her a little uncomfortable. And she backtracked and said, I wonder why guilt is an invalid emotion, because no emotions are invalid, but guilt really is a totally invalid emotion. She thought about it a little more and realized the reason that guilt is invalid is because it's not you. It's not your voice talking to yourself. It's somebody else's voice and someone else's expectation of what you are supposed to be doing that either they've expressed to you or that you've internalized and you're expressing to yourself. But it's not your own voice. Your own voice might sound like conflict. It might sound like distress. It might sound like struggle, but it's not guilt in the same way. So the example here was that I was talking to somebody and they said, oh, you're going away for your birthday. Don't you want to spend time with your family for your birthday? And I took that and internalized it and really felt very, very bad about it. Oh, I shouldn't I want to spend my birthday with my kids? Shouldn't I want to spend my birthday with my family? And there it is again, that word, that should. That shouldn't I? Should I? What am I supposed to be doing? What does someone else expect of me? That feeling of guilt should immediately be your alarm bell to take that particular thought and throw it away. Because thoughts are liars. A thought is only something that popped into your head and appeared to you. If you decide to make something of it and turn it into an action, then it becomes part of who you are and it becomes valid. Otherwise, you can choose to get rid of it completely, to just blow it away. Bye. A thought pops into your mind. You're not being a good mom. You should be spending your birthday with your kids. I am being a good mother by taking care of myself. You can blow the thought away. Just because it occurs to you does not make it true. So I've definitely been there, overwhelmed by the constant demands of motherhood and business. And by I've been there, I mean I am there every single day of my entire life. Carrying that invisible mental load, everybody's schedules, birthdays, keeping everything afloat. But you really don't have to do everything by yourself. And that's much easier said than done, but it's true. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it is true. And I can't stress this enough. It takes tremendous bravery to put yourself first. In the tug of war between your kids and your business, between motherhood and work, between parenthood and entrepreneurship that are constantly pulling you in different directions, in that tug of war, choose yourself. Choosing yourself means that you can show up better for everybody across the board. And again, that's easier said than done. Like, we talk about choosing ourselves. We talk about self-care. And when we talk about self-care, we talk about all these lovely things that are really just intended to sell you products and promote consumerism. But we talk about spa days and getting your nails done and facials and massages and getting your hair done and all of these ways of making yourself more pleasing and more palatable for other people. And that's supposed to be a way of taking care of yourself. For some of us, self-care means showering. It means going to sleep early. It means eating a meal that you want to eat without taking everybody else's dietary considerations or preferences into account. It means stopping to work a little early and watching a movie. It means going for a walk. It means doing things for yourself that care for you, that treat yourself in a loving way and in a way that you would want someone else, someone that you care for, to treat themselves. Self-care doesn't always feel nice. It's not always stuff that we want to do. Self-care for someone with ADHD might look like brushing their teeth. And if you have ADHD, you might already know that it's a very big struggle for a lot of us to brush our teeth. It's an extremely low dopamine task with very little to no reward. And because we struggle to create habits, every single day you need to consciously will yourself to brush your teeth. And there really is no reward in that. But it is an act of self-care. It is an act of self-love. And the way that you can know if you're doing something for yourself that is caring is to ask yourself, by doing this, am I showing love to myself or not? And it can be a little bit more complicated, right? So I really am just craving self-care. I'm craving some time to myself. But financially, it's not smart for me to take the money out for a massage right now. Am I loving myself? Am I being loving to myself by spending money that I don't have on a massage? The answer, of course, is no. Now is not the time. We need to find another way of caring for ourselves and loving ourselves, because by doing that, by caring for myself in a way that feels good to me right now, I'm not acting in a loving way towards my future self. So it's complicated. It's complex. It requires thought, and it really requires stopping, pausing, and taking a deep look at your life. How do I make changes in my life? By being mindful. Being mindful means being present in your life and actually taking stock. So that is step number one. Start by identifying the areas where you feel stretched. Is it kids? Is it home? Is it work? Is it self-care? Where am I stretching myself beyond what I feel like I can do? And then once you've identified those areas, know that it's okay to ask for help. And here's how. You identify the systems that exist around you. Who is in my support system? If we are very lucky, then we have people in our support system who can actually help us. Some of us have people in our support system who could help us if we asked and if we knew what we needed. And we have other people in our support system who are maybe willing to help us, but they don't really know how. And that requires a little bit more effort. And then there's other gaps that are going to exist in that support system where you're going to need to fill it in with their help. Delegating is your superpower. The first step to delegation, and delegation just means asking someone else to do stuff for you, right? Hey, we need to get the dishes need to be done, dinner needs to be cooked, we need to unload the dishwasher, we need to put away the groceries. All four of those tasks could be mom's tasks, or dad could put away the groceries, kid can load the dishwasher, mom can cook dinner, and I don't remember what the fourth thing was because I have ADHD, but the fourth person in the house could do that, or maybe everyone could do it together, or maybe it could wait until tomorrow. But now an overwhelming list of tasks that need to be done simultaneously that maybe mom would normally do on her own or dad would normally do on his own, we are delegating responsibility. We are splitting responsibility in an age-appropriate and task-appropriate way so that you don't have to do everything. And what is the trap? The trap is when it takes a little bit of effort to delegate. Delegation doesn't happen exactly the way that you want it to most of the time. It's not going to be done exactly the way that you would do it or exactly the way that you want it done, at least not the first time. It takes time to get there. So when you are delegating tasks, look at the tasks and look at the people. Ask for help. Help with school pickups, meal prep, cleaning. Does someone have a child who's the age above you, like a little older than your kids, who can pass clothing onto you so you don't have to worry about shopping for the next size up? How can people help you in ways that to them are low effort? Within that, set clear boundaries for yourself and the way that you help others as well. You have a finite tank of energy. And if you empty your tank, it's not going to fill back up until you do a refilling activity, until you put more gas in tank. So once the gas tank is empty, it stays empty unless you refuel. Setting clear boundaries and protecting your time, your work time, your family time, your self time, blocking time out like that to protect the bleed from personal into work and from kids into self. You need to set those strict boundaries. And that means practicing the word no, which if you're a mama, that word might be hard for you. And if you're a human, that word might be hard for you. No is a beautiful, powerful word. I'm going to add in a little bit of a side tangent to the word no. For those of us who are ADHD or ASD or some other member of the neurodivergent fam, we might have experienced something called rejection sensitivity dysphoria, or RSD. We like our acronyms in this world. Rejection sensitivity dysphoria is when rejection or perceived rejection is so overwhelmingly painful that you can't handle it. So when somebody is rejected, ouch, that hurts. When somebody with RSD or rejection sensitivity dysphoria is rejected, it feels like you took their heart in both of your hands, squeezed it, and twisted in the opposite directions. It is unbearably, excruciatingly painful to experience rejection when you have RSD. And it's very difficult to remember that the rejection is often in our mind. It's a perceived rejection and not an actual rejection. And then furthermore, it's hard to remember that even if it is an actual rejection, there's nothing we can do about it. It's out of our control completely. So when we think about saying no, we ADHD people, we also think about how it's going to feel for the other person when we say no. And because it's so painful for us to receive rejection, we avoid rejecting other people and avoid setting those boundaries and avoid saying no so that we don't overstep or hurt someone in the way that we get hurt when we're rejected. Other people don't feel that same way. And by betraying your own boundaries, you are trampling on the foundation of your relationship. You are not setting a relationship that is fair to yourself. And therefore, you're not setting up a relationship that is fair to the other person on the other side, because they're now operating on expectations that don't exist, that aren't true, that aren't sustainable. If you say yes to everything and you have no boundaries, and you do not force the other person to have boundaries, then your boundaries are going to get trampled because they don't exist. And you're only going to realize when the distress is so high that you need to do something to now regulate. Setting clear boundaries, protecting yourself, and practicing the word no will save you. It will save your relationships. It will save you time and it will save you heartache. And the faster you can get there, the more you are doing for yourself. And the third most critical, absolutely most crucial step is releasing the guilt. Let go of the idea that everything has to be perfect. Let go of the idea that everything is going to be perfect. It won't. You don't have to worry about it because it's not going to happen. Never, ever in the history of the world has there ever been anything perfect. Never, ever in the history of the world has there ever been anything perfect. And as we know, there's nothing new under the sun. So it's not going to be perfect. Just let it go. It's not going to happen. So striving for something that isn't going to happen is a waste of your time, right? So just don't do that. Just don't do that. Just stop. And even as stupid as that sounds, it almost is that simple. You feel the guilt, you identify the guilt, you see it, and you stop it. What does that extend to as well? If I release myself from the idea of perfection, then I can delegate a task to someone else without worrying that it's not going to happen the way that I want it to be done. Because I already know that it's not going to be perfect, and I already know that it's not going to happen the way that I exactly want it to be done. So if I release myself from that expectation, I set clear boundaries. I let someone know what they can and cannot do, and then I let it go. Let it go. Exhale. It'll get done. Maybe not exactly in your way. Maybe not exactly on your timeline. It'll get done. And it's going to be okay. And if it doesn't get done in an appropriate timeline, in an appropriate way, well, now let's go back to the boundary step. When you go back to the boundary step, you now have an opportunity to reevaluate what you communicated and what the guidelines for said action are. So to wrap up today's very special edition of work smarter, not harder. One way to work smarter is to stop doing everything yourself. It's not possible. It's not possible to do it all on your own. You can do everything. You can do anything, but not all at once and not by yourself. Not all at once and not by yourself. So when it comes to working smarter and not harder in motherhood, in balancing work and life, in balancing work, life, and self, choose yourself. It's going to pay out the most in the long run. And I know that you can. And when it feels really hard, just take it down to the smallest steps. What is happening right now? Where am I struggling? Who is around me? What help can I ask for? You are not weak for needing help. You just need to make sure that you're asking for help from the people who want to help you and who are there to help you and who are capable of helping you. And take note, who is capable of helping you in what way? If someone has the capacity to help you in a very specific way, ask them for help in that area. That's the area they're strongest in. That's where they're going to be able to offer you the most help. And in the areas where you're strong and you can offer someone else assistance with very little effort to you, do it. Reach out and offer that kind of help. If we all did that a little bit more, then we'd constantly be helping other people out in our areas of strength. And we wouldn't have to do everything ourselves because it would become natural to ask each other for that kind of help. I've had so much fun with you here today. I love you and leave you for another week. Keep being squirrely, keep looking all around, keep it up, keep being exactly who you are. And don't forget, every so often, to pause and breathe and look around. Everything is fine. Everything is manageable. You can do it.